What's up YouTube? Welcome back to the channel, and this is my 1962 Belair Wagon project. Now if you're familiar with this project, we've been working on it for a couple years now and we are making some progress. Now you'll know that most of this project has been me working on the underside of the car, working on the floor pan section, and today we're going to finish that up by coating it with a nice coating of Bedliner material. So before we get to it, if you're not subscribed and you like these type of cars, then consider clicking the subscribe button so you can follow along with everything that goes on here on the channel. Now let's get to work. So now that we have our cage nuts for our body mount squared away, we can focus our efforts on the underside of the car once again. And if you look down here, I've already been underneath here this morning, kind of trying to knock down some of this rust and trying to get most of this old undercoating off. And it was a lot of work. It took a torch and a wire brush, as you can see there on the drill. But we've got most of that stuff off. And as you can see here in the middle, we got most of it off there. So the next step is to media blast all this area that you see here to remove all the rust and crust. And back here on the rear floor pan as well. And we're going to put this into a black epoxy primer before we go right on top of it with this red oxide tinted Bedliner kit, so it'll look uniform from front to back. And here is my homemade blaster setup that you might have seen me use on the firewall. It's obviously airlines, and we have our homemade dryer right here, which is literally just a transmission cooler sitting in a bucket of water. We have a water separator here with our airlines coming out, pressure regulator there. And then over here, you can see we have a bucket, and we have our blast media, which is actually coal slag, and we have a nozzle that came from a blasting cabinet. And this actually works pretty good, and it does work pretty fast. So several hours later, and you can see we're finally done, and I'm pretty happy with the way it's turned out. Now this dark area that you see, this is some of the rust treatment that I put on prior about a year ago, and that stuff's just fine. And a lot of this stuff, some of these dark spots are actually some of the original primer that was on the body. And while I had the blaster out, I just went ahead and touched up some of these areas right here where we have some problems, just to kind of get them down to bare metal, because we are going to do some work in these areas. But we're going to put this stuff in epoxy primer too, so it'll be protected. And as you can see, it did create a little bit of a mess, and it's actually the heat index is probably about 95 96 degrees today. It's really hot. This was a really hot, sweaty job, and this is one of the reasons why I want to get this thing indoors, is so I can work on this thing and not have to sweat to death. It's time for our final step now that we have this epoxy primer laid out, and that is the Bedliner coating. And this is the Bedliner kit that we're going to use. This is SCM Rocket XC, and it is tintable, as you can see here. And we're going to tint it with this base coat color, which is red oxide, just like the front half of the floor pan. So here's what the Bedliner kit looks like. Now this is the front half of the floor pan. I done this about a year and a half, 2 years ago. And as you can see, it looks really, really good. It looks even better in person. And it's a real hard, durable finish that'll never come apart. You should never really have any issues with it because it's a nice hard Bedliner material. And that's what I was looking for. So if you want to check it out, I did a full video on me doing this floor pan. But now you get to see me do the rear floor pan. Now in this kit, you do get the undercoating gun, you get a bottle of catalyst, and you get 4 of the bottles of the actual Bedliner material. Now the way this works is you're going to need your base coat. Now this is a base coat without a binder in it, and you're going to mix a little bit of this into this can right here, shake it up well, and then your undercoating gun goes right on top of this and you spray right out of the can. So after several days of hard work, laying on this dirty ground, we finally have it all coated and it looks very good, and I'm happy with the way it's turned out. And that pretty much makes the floor pan complete. And from the rear here you can see it's nice and coated. Now this thing's going to kind of gloss back. It's not going to really have that glossiness that you see once it dries up, and it'll get rock hard. And you can see the sheen here. It's kind of like a semi-gloss sheen. That's what it should look like once it dries versus this real glossiness. A few days later, we're back out here checking it out. This Bedliner kit is fully dried and it looks really good. And I went ahead and I've done a little bit of undercoating on this side, as you can see in black. This is regular rattle can black undercoating. And the same thing here on the passenger side, as you can see. It's nice and coated. So now that we have the floor pan coated and complete, we can finally get this thing up off of the blocks and get it ready to move to the shop and put it on its new frame. That's right, after all of that hard work that we put in over the past couple years, we can finally get this thing ready to go back onto our replacement frame, and that's exactly what we'll do in the next video. So until then, I'd like to say thank you for watching. Be sure you check out all my videos on this project and all my other projects, and if you're not subscribed, then consider clicking the subscribe button, click the bell so you'll get the notifications, and you can also follow me on Facebook and Instagram.